purpose of this lab is for you guys to take the concept of collecting a gas over water and actually apply it using experimental data. Now, obviously, since we're not in class, I'm going to be doing it for you, and so I show you my steps and I explain what I'm doing. But ultimately, the goal is for you to understand so that if you were to go back into the lab, you would be able to collect gas over water and in so doing determine the molar mass of lighter fluid. And so the process of collecting gas over water you guys just looked at in your notes. But ultimately what it does is that it allows you to use your ideal gas law, PV equals nRT, in order to determine the number of moles of gas that you release. And with the moles of gas that you release and the mass of gas that you release, you can then determine the molar mass of the lighter fluid. So for the ideal gas law, PV equals nRT, we'll need to determine the pressure of the gas that's released into your, we call it a Udeometer, into the tube that you have. You'll need to know the volume of the gas that is released. You'll need to know your R value, and then you'll also need to know the temperature that your gas is at. With that information, you can then determine the number of moles of gas that you release. The other piece of information is the mass. And so what you're going to have to do is figure out, okay, from my lighter, how much gas did I actually release from my lighter? And so I take you through those steps. What you're going to be doing is you are going to take all of these steps, collect the data that you need, and actually answer the question of what is the molar mass of this lighter fluid. But then you're going to go back for your lab and you're going to complete the materials and methods section. So the point of this is you're going to translate what I did in this video, and you are actually going to explain what needs to be done to complete the lab. After that, you're also going to include your discussion. And so remember, all of that information about what needs to be included in each of these sections is in the laboratory write-up document that is under Schoology. So with no further ado, here is me completing the molar mass of lighter fluid lab for you guys. All right, so the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to take my lighter and I'm going to put it into water. And the reason why I do that is I want to get it nice and wet, just like how it's going to be after I'm done expelling gas from the lighter itself. Then I'm going to grab a paper towel, I'm going to dry it off, shake it out, make sure it is as dry as I can possibly get it, and I'm going to weigh it on the scale. Now I need to make sure to zero the scale. And this is the mass that I get of my lighter before I expel any gas. All right, now I need to pour water into my Udeometer. Now this is a Udeometer. It is a one-sided tube, so I'm gonna pour my water in as carefully as I can. I'm gonna fill it all the way up to the top. And the value of having a Udeometer is that when I expel the gas from the lighter, I can actually measure the volume of gas that I expel from the lighter by simply collecting it all in the Udeometer. So I need to make sure that the water is filled all the way up to the top. Okay, and I'm going to spill a little bit onto the counter, that's fine. And now I'm going to cover my finger, the opening with my finger, and I'm going to flip it. So if you notice, there are no gas bubbles in my Udeometer right now. Okay, I'm going to very awkwardly put it into the big beaker of water. And now I've got a Udeometer that's full of water that has no air bubbles. And so my next task is going to be to take my lighter and I'm going to expel gas. I'm not going to do it right now because I want to collect all the gas that leaves from it. But I'm going to expel the gas by pushing this red button, and it's going to cause bubbles to form in the Udeometer. So let's see that. All right, so I'm going to put the lighter under the very bottom of the Udeometer to the best of my ability, making sure the Udeometer stays underwater. And now I'm going to hit the button. Now I'm going to hit the button and allow bubbles to go into the Udeometer. Okay, and I'm going to displace about 40 mils of water, which would represent 40 mils of gas. So for a different view, you can see it from here. I'm still releasing the gas from the lighter. But now you'll be able to see it actually being caught by the Udeometer. Okay, and I'm going to go all the way down to displace 40 mils of water. So by displacing 40 mils of water, I am putting in 40 mils of gas. Okay, so here's my Udeometer. I've displaced all of this water all the way down. I'm going to have you help me measure this. Okay. So if you look at this Udeometer, we're going to be treating it just like a ruler because it looks just like a ruler. You start at 39, then as you move down, the volume is going to increase, which is the exact opposite of what we normally see with a graduated cylinder. So when we're measuring this, we're going to measure it as 40, because it's between 40 and 41. Then this part is kind of hard to see, but the meniscus is somewhere between 40.5 and 40.6. And so our value that we're going to have is 40.5 something. And so that last digit, that is our estimated digit. And so it is at your discretion what you want that value to be. Okay, so that's how we measure using a Udeometer, and then also how to measure the volume using a burette, which we'll do later this year. One important note is that technically this water level should have been the same water level as was in the beaker, but in order to help you to measure the volume, I lifted it up out of the beaker. So that's going to cause a tiny bit of error in the volume of gas that we measure, but not significant enough that we need to be worried. So since my Udeometer is full of gas, I've recorded the volume now, so I'm actually going to take it outside right now. I'm going to let the water out. Okay. I don't want that gas to escape into my classroom because then I'd be breathing it in. So I'm going to take it outside and I'm going to release it outside, and then I'll be right back. So I now know the volume of gas that I released from the lighter. And so what I need to do now is figure out, okay, what mass of gas did I release from the lighter? Because the goal of this lab is for you to determine the molar mass of the gas. So I need to find the new mass of the lighter, so I'm going to dry it. Okay. And I'm going to zero my scale again. I'm going to put my lighter on my scale, and then I will have you read the new mass. So this is the new mass of the lighter. Now that you know the final mass of the lighter and the initial mass of the lighter, you can figure out the mass of butane that was released. And since you know the volume of water that was displaced, you'll know the volume of gas that was displaced. The other pieces of information that you need in order to determine the molar mass of the lighter fluid. First, you need to know the temperature. And so I did not note that, but the temperature when I did this lab that I got was 25.2 degrees Celsius, so you can record that. The other information that you need is to know the pressure that the gas is under in the Udeometer. And so what you need to do is you need to look up the pressure of water vapor when it's at 25.2 degrees Celsius. And then you also need to look up what the atmospheric pressure of Burbank is, since I was in Burbank when I completed this lab. With all of that information, you can then determine the molar mass of the lighter fluid that is in the lighter.